Hi, my name's Fred. I drink beer. Welcome back to part 2 of accidental aging the Germans. When all was said and done, I had too many beers. They ended up not being as bad as I thought, so I decided to split the video into 2 sections rather than totally bore you to death with extra long version. So I'm going to pick it up right where we left off last time. Okay, I'm back with another beer, and this is from Bamberg, Schlenkerla Helles Lagerbier. And I don't know how old this is as well. They don't have a date code on it. They have a little notch. The German labels have a Best By, but the US labels don't. And there's a little notch on the rear label, which probably if you knew, how far up or down it was, will tell you something. So I don't really know how old this is. I have a feeling it's probably 2016, that I probably got it about the same time as the Fru. But I honestly don't remember. I mean, I can remember buying it, and I bought probably a 6-pack, and I think I bought it around the time that the Ur-Bock was out. But I tend not to buy a lot of Schlenkerla beer in the U.S. because usually I'm in Bamberg twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. So I'd rather drink it fresh at the brewery. So let's see how this is. Now I have, it's not quite the proper glass, but it's at least the right brewery. Nice and carbonated. And it's kind of hard, I guess, if I turn it this way. The label kind of gets in the way. It is, this is filtered, though it does look a little, no, I guess some of that's the glasses, maybe condensation. It looks pretty clear. Not a lot on the nose, which you normally wouldn't. Smells like beer and a little bit of oxidation. Yeah, it's again, it's hard to judge. I would guess this is probably. It seems to be in similar state to the Fru, so it's probably around 2016. So that's maybe a little bit young for beers from the basement. But I basically was going through and grabbing all the German beers I saw, and like I said, I misread the label, the date code on the Fru. So this one I will enjoy and finish. Now we do get, this is a little bit different. If you've been to, if you're watching us in the US and you've been to a beer store or ordered beer delivery, you may have seen this, almost the same beer. It's got pretty much the same label in a can, in a 16-ounce can. And that sort of is the same beer, but what they do is some of the beers, the regular Märzen, the lager beer, and then the Lenten beer, the Fasten beer in Germany, they call it Lent beer here. They ship over in bulk. They have a special container. It's got a tank and it's refrigerated, and then it's canned in the U.S. So it's quite a bit fresher. The beer seems to last better in a large container, and I assume they have and it is unfiltered. I guess is the point. So the yeast acts as a natural preservative. The yeast will absorb oxygen, which is why bottle conditioned beers last longer than filtered beers. And the Märzen is filtered, which is the sort of the standard beer you think of with Schlenkerla, and I'm assuming they filter it before they can it in order to get that same effect. So the can Helles Lagerbier is one of my go-tos, or has been in these times of COVID. That there's a liquor store I get a delivery from that carries it, and there's always a 4-pack or a couple of 4-packs on there. So it's been one of my favorite beers during the pandemic. This is not, the can is in much better shape. But this is, and the can ones have a little bit more of a smoke character, which I assume there is some of that's from the yeast. This one I don't really get any smokiness. I mean, there's maybe a hint there, but that may be also psychosomatic, because I think of Schlenkerla and I think of smoked beer. So, well, I'm gonna get a picture of this one and I'm gonna drink this one. I'm not gonna regale you with stories of Bamberg, because I've got a gazillion of them, and you just have to meet me there someday, and I'll tell you in person while we're drinking a beer at the brewery tap. So anyway, thank you. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back with my Schlenkerla Helles Lagerbier from unknown time, but probably 2016-ish. It's really not old enough to be a beer from the basement. It is past its prime, and I'm friends in real life as well as in social media with the owner and brewer, and he's going to give me grief, I'm sure, for not drinking this sooner. And it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to. That's why I call it accidental aging. I didn't mean to keep this one. It just got pushed behind some other stuff, and I didn't notice it till I was rooting through looking for interesting beers in my basement. So I'm going to finish this one, but in the meantime I'm going to open up another one, and this one I expect not to turn out well. This is another beer from Bamberg, from Mahrs. They call it a Christmas Bock. And I remember when I bought this, and unfortunately it looks like the date is sort of worn out on the label, but I can read the last digit as 5. And I know it's not 2015, and I know it's not 1995, so it must be 2005, which is way too long for a 6% filtered beer. The interesting thing is, I believe this was only brewed for the U.S. I don't remember ever seeing a Christmas Bock from Mahrs when I've been in Bamberg, and I've been in Bamberg late in December. That's not common. There are some breweries that do a Christmas Bock, a Weihnachtsbock, so call it Monsumbacher. Brauerei Zehedner from Monsumbacher does one. It's very good. But I hadn't seen one from Mahrs except for in the U.S. And sometime in the 2000s, we got a shipment. It was fairly rare. It's imported by Shelton Brothers, and I think he had done a deal with one of the chain liquor stores, and he brought a container of beer directly into L.A., whereas most of the beers from Europe go into an East Coast port, which is why we don't see them, because they basically get sold before they reach California. But this was a deal he did with a California chain, and I don't remember which one. And they brought in a bunch of beers, and I think that's where this one came from, but I don't honestly remember. But we'll give it a try here. and there's not much hiss left. Now I'm also a little. So far, I don't know if you've noticed, every beer has been in a glass from the brewery, and I actually don't have a Mahrs glass. I had one, but I think it got broken along the way, and I never replaced it. So I'm going to assume this is not very carbonated. And looks pretty murky. It smells like, actually, smells more sherry oxidation than some of the others have had the sort of wet cardboard oxidation, which is not so enjoyable. This has a bit of a sherry nose to it. It's actually better than I expected. It's not as bad as the Schneider that I dumped, the Edelweisse, the Wiesen Edelweisse. It's not. I'm not going to drink the whole half-liter bottle. But I'm surprised. I don't know if that comes up on the thing. You can see the label has faded, and I don't know why, because it was kept in the dark. I believe, but maybe it was. But the label's faded and it's falling apart. Interesting. I'm gonna. I'm saying there is even a little bit of lace, even though there's not a lot of carbonation. Why this is interesting? Mahrs does do like all of the breweries in Bamberg. They do their Bock beers in the fall. Munich breweries tend to do them in the spring. Originally they were around Lent, but I think that changes from year to year. So they're basically released in set day in March, and usually St. Joseph's Day, which is the day or two after St. Patrick's Day. So like right about now. But in Bamberg they do them in the fall, and the Mahrs Bock is often one of my favorites, but it's a pale Bock. It's not this color. It looks like slightly darker than their lager, or their Helles beer. So I don't know where this beer comes from. They don't, as far as I know, on their other range, they don't brew a 6% alcohol dark beer. I mean, they do have a dark beer that they sometimes brew, ETA Hoffman, but I don't think it's 6%. It's around 5%. So it's a mystery, and I always mean to remember to ask them when I go to Bamberg and when I meet the sort of the current manager, current owner, brewer. I mean, he's not the day-to-day brewer, but current owner of the company. And I always forget. It's like when I see him, we're drinking a glass of fresh Mahrs, and we'll always talk about that. So one of these days I will ask him about, what's up with that Christmas Bock. So I'm going to pause and take a picture of that, and I'll drink some of this, and then I think I'll move on to my next beer, because I'm not going to finish this one. So we'll see in a minute. Okay, we're making good progress. The next beer up is I'd actually thought it was an Einbecker Mai-Bock, but it's actually the Maibock, the Maibock. the Mai-Ur-Bock. This is appears to be from 2010, based on where it was and reading the notches on the label. And again, proper glass. This is 6.5% alcohol. It's actually fairly well carbonated. This one I think has been refrigerated since I bought it. If not since I bought it, since soon after I bought it. I guess you can see my face. It's not a beer I'm familiar with. I've had the Ur-Bock, the Einbecker Ur-Bock, which is pale, and the Maibock should be pale as well, and this looks a little dark, but that's probably oxidation. Still it smells fine. I mean, I get some maltiness and a little bit of oxidation in the nose. And in the taste, it's basically malt and oxidation. Sometimes the Maibock will have some hops. Some of the ones in Franconia, the Maibocks or the Springbocks, tend to be a little hoppier than the Fallbocks. This one is, I say it's about middle of the road. It's, well, for 2010, for being, 10, 11 years old, it's actually done fairly well. Like I say, I think this one has been refrigerated the whole time, but I do have another one that was not refrigerated, and I thought about having them both and saving this one for to do a side by side, but I'll just have to try and remember when I get around to drinking that one. If I do a subsequent accidental aging, I might bring up that one and compare it to the one that was kept refrigerated. Well, I'm going to pause here for a sec, take a picture of it, and come back with some more thoughts. And a little bit, I don't have a lot of stuff about Einbeck, but I do have a few. So I will see you soon. So I'm back with my Einbecker Mai-Bock, say Mai-Bock, Mai-Ur-Bock, from I believe 2010, and it's doing okay. Again, all of these beers today, I would rather have a fresh one. These are not beers that I planned on aging, and I wouldn't recommend anyone else to plan on aging them. But once I got them, I might as well drink them, at least see how they do. I say this one is held up well for 11 years. It's 6.5% alcohol. Now, Einbeck, and I don't know if this is, how much of this is true and how much of this is folklore, but they claim to be the original Bock beer. I mean, they do that in their title, the Ur-Bock, the Ur in German is original. They have a story, the brewery, there's been a brewery, the current brewery has been around since before 1300. It was first mentioned, some documents in the 1300s. And they were known for brewing a stronger than average beer. And at some point, one of their brewers ended up in Munich and supposedly taught them how to brew stronger beers. And because of the various dialects in German, the Einbeck was sort of corrupted to Einbock. and a Bock in German is a goat, a billy goat, which is sort of a symbol of strength. You don't want to fight with an angry goat. So that's the story. The Bock beer, the Einbeck became Einbock or Bock, and so the stronger beers that Munich called their stronger beers Bock beer. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a historian. I've read lots of stories that said that's true, but it's like I saw it on the internet, so it must be true. I'm sure they weren't the only ones to brew. I mean, there's no secret recipe. I mean, it's not like they discovered some secret process to get more alcohol out of the beer. You start off with more malt, you're going to end up with a stronger beer. So, I'm sure they weren't the only ones in all of Germany or all of continental Europe to brew a beer that was stronger than average. And in fact, that was not uncommon. Stronger beers, the alcohol is a preservative, so if you have a stronger beer in the days before sanitation, it was likely that it would last longer. So a lot of the beers brewed for export and export at that time really meant outside the local town, were stronger. And you see that in, the original IPAs, the India Pale Ales, were stronger beers brewed to survive the voyage to India. The Imperial Russian Stout were British beers brewed extra strong to survive until they got to St. Petersburg. And so, were they the first? Who knows? It's a good story, and I'm not going to argue with them. But it does, say it is a good story, and they have a claim to it, and they have, no one else's that I've read, at least in English, has come up with a better explanation as to why beers of 6 to 7.5% alcohol are called Bock beers. Well, I'm trying to move things along. I'm going to drink this one in, it turns out I have another Maibock to try. Now this one, technically I'm violating the spirit of the title. This is a Primátor Maibock. It's actually Czech. It's not German. So, but when I saw that, I thought, well, I'll include it with the German beers, because I don't think I have many Czech beers in my basement. There may be some really old bottles of Pilsner Urquell, but I haven't found them yet. So, Primátor, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. They're most famous in the Czech Republic or Czechia for their wheat beers. You go to a pub, and if it's not a Primátor pub, they will generally, the only beer they'll have will be the wheat beer. Now there are some, been to a few, there's at least one pub in Prague, I think it's Uklaku, something like that. It's along the river, that is a Primátor pub, and they have about 12 different beers on tap, including actually a nice ESB, and they do a decent IPA and a decent sort of British stout. So we can see the color is, this I think is also from 2010. There's no date code on it. Well, there's a number on it, but I can't, it says 219. That kind of is not enough information to know what year. It does say on the label 2008 World's Best Lager. So it's got to be at least after 2008. But from where it was close to where the Einbecker is. So And it actually is similar in color, which is probably coincidence. The nose, again, getting sherry and getting malt, and there may even be a little bit of hops in there. Well, there's some sweetness. The Einbecker wasn't really sweet at all, and that's not unusual to have for a Maibock to be. Some of them are hoppy and some of them are sweet, but that's true of Bock beers in general. I get a little bit of sweetness in this one. Yeah, it's in similar shape. Again, the Czech. And I think it's in a little better shape. I'm not sure why, if they're from the same time. The 2009, 2010 comes to mind because in 2009 I made my first. I made my first visits to the Czech Republic because when I was there before, it was the Czechoslovak Socialist Republic. And I saw their wheat beer all over the place, and if I saw the name in the bottle shop, I would have picked up on it as being familiar and bought it. So the timing sounds about right. It could be later. It could be 2012, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's any later than that. And it's a little stronger than the Einbecker. It's 7.5%. So that's means it's probably it's survived a little bit better because it's stronger. This is one I really do wish I had drank when it was fresh because it's a nice beer. It was a nice beer. Well, I'm gonna take a break, get a picture of it, and come back with some final thoughts and close out today's session. Okay. I'm back here with my final beer of the day, the Primátor Maibock from 2010-ish. Also from the Czech Republic, or Czechia, I guess is the official way we say it these days. It's got some floaties in it, which is always a little bit off-putting. That's sediment, I assume, that is from protein that had settled out. So I will drink this, but carefully. It's better than I expected. All but one of the beers have really been better than I expected. This is the 8th beer today. I dumped one. I drank 2 completely, and I drank half of the rest, which is better than I expected. I sort of expected most of these to be dumpers, but I'm glad they're not. Don't know much what else to say. I'm gonna sit here as gets into the late afternoon, finish up some of these beers, and think about what I'm going to do for next week's episode. As always, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm up to 28 subscribers. My life's goal was 30. So who knows? Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your relatives, and watch the videos and say hit like. I'm always interested in comments, feedback, and I'll also put my Twitter and Instagram handle on there as well, so you can contact me there if you if you have comments. I tend to tweet the beers as I go, so you can follow along before the video, because it takes a while to edit the video and get it uploaded. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and in the meantime, good beers to you.